So, these are some of the things when you come to the issue, your political will.
Yes.
Because everybody will say, yes, we have the political will, even if that political will is weak. Weak because the people who are saying that we have the political will are themselves compromised. They committed corruption. Or they will say, no, we have the political will, where they don't have the initiative whatsoever. But you only see a situation of political will where you see a commitment to uphold integrity. Where you see a situation where the politicians are prepared, like in the first case here, 𝗕𝗂𝗄𝗃, and even in the in the second case here, in the first case here, 𝗕𝗂𝗄𝗃.
Yes. So
where the president was saying,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Are you saying that in your years working as a corruption buster, this time around was the first time you really met such kind of resistance trying to do your work? I mean, you've served under 5 presidents. You've served under actually all of them.
Yes.
Yes.
I wouldn't say that. Where again do we see this political will that I'm talking about? It was during the Mogae administration.
The Nchindo case?
The Nchindo case.
Yes.
Right? Where everybody else, they ran away, even those that you could not grab. You were sure, no, I have a very strong witness here.
Yes.
And then they give evidence in chief, and then it comes time for cross-examination. Now they've changed the story, right? And Mogae stood by his word. No, I can't interfere with the process. Yes, Nchindo might be my friend. I accept. He's my friend. But I don't think my mandate, looking at my constitutional oath,
yes,
it allows me to interfere with the process. And you see, again, you look at Nian, that is where it becomes interesting when you look at corruption, because otherwise people think DCEC alone can fight corruption. No, it can't. Because the job at DCEC is to investigate and then present the evidence before the prosecution.
DPP.
Yeah, to present that evidence. And then the second responsibility at DCEC is to defend that evidence in court.
Yes.
So you have a reluctance at DPP to prosecute for whatever reasons.
Then the whole
system is collapsed. I remember, of course, during the investigation near the Nchindo scandal, one of the senior officers, it was during Mogae's time, they came to my office. This was a political appointee. He says, well, Mr. Katlholo, what do you think you are doing? This case is going to collapse this country and what have you. Okay. Then I told him, no, but you are wrong. If we don't prosecute this case, then the country is going to collapse. You see? Because we have told the world that we are going to combat corruption, we even set structures, we have the laws and what have you.
Then we have to do our job.
So we have to do our job. But otherwise, if you insist on that, the dam is here, you can go and drown yourself there.
So the Nchindo case, what role did you play in there, or did it start after you have left in 2009?
No, I started.
Yes. So I would really like to know your bird's eye view into how it all began.
Well, there was an audit that was conducted. I was not responsible for initiating that audit. In a dura ke bane ba dira ko risk those who had the authority, I think the Attorney General, then 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗶𝗱, and then some board
began
members.
with an audit.
Yeah, it began with an audit
Into
the operations. It's 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗱. And then this audit came across this correspondence. The acquisition of land. Yeah, 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗶𝗱, and then 2 other plots go Kasane and Maung. And the way this was presented, even to cabinet, because I think that is where it started, because now I get it, the matter was presented to cabinet.
Yes.
As a subsidiary of the Botswana to diversify the economy away from diamonds, right? Yeah. And then it occurred as the process continued. It occurred now, this thing now was gravitating towards an individual project.
Yes.
And no longer the Botswana project. That is how the audit started, and a company was engaged in Britain to investigate all these things. So they came up with a report, and then they presented the report, and they were directed to file the report with us, the DCEC. So that is how it started. That is how we commenced the investigation. I assembled a team, a very strong team, which I supervised directly. Right. They were doing the runaround, collecting information here and there. But it was not easy to get the evidence that we needed, until we went to the UK and met one of the officers, the former officers, that's one. Apparently, it compiled all information about this particular project.
Okay.
So when we came back, we had all the documents, and then it was just a matter of following the relevant ministries. No, we want this information, we want this information, we want this information. Then we put the case together, right? And then submitted to DPP. So, that is how.
And then you interviewed Nchindo.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
And that is where, again, 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗶𝗱 was a little bit uncomfortable. Uncomfortable in the sense that we took a bit of time to interview Nchindo. But then his uneasiness, I think, came out of the fact that Nchindo was his friend.
Yes.
The longer we took to engage him, the more perception built up where he was being protected. And that did not augur well with Aban. And of course, I had to sit down with him to say that, Your Excellency, this is where we are. These are the initiatives that we have put in place to make sure that we reach that process. Interview. Because he was coming up with the stories and what have you. And I was saying that if we were to interview him in that stage, then technically he would have been interviewed under duress. And that could compromise our case going forward. But I must say that he understood and accepted my explanation,
Yes.
and he allowed the process, I mean, to run as I had planned it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I find it quite curious. I've heard other versions of the story anyway, that the fight between Nchindo and Mogae also reached levels where Mogae was aware that Nchindo wants to unseat him and actually pave way for Khama to succeed him and all the likes before his time, like they did Masire. And then Mogae also probably put up a fight on his own end.
No, that one I'm not aware. It can better.
So this audit, where did it come from? Which began all of this?
Ghana, this project was started as the Tswana project. I get it. The Tswana is a government company.
Yes.
And it was even presented to cabinet as such.
Yes.
But as time went on,
Yes.
it gravitated towards an individual project. And Mogae picked it up. Picked it up.
At the convenient time.
At the convenient time.
Yes.
So that is how it, and of course it was going, and of course it was affecting him.
Yes, yes.
Because otherwise he was going to be an accomplice.
True that. How did you not see your friend?
How did you not see your friend? So your friend did this, that, and you did nothing. So that is that. And I think it was a question of accountability now for the state resources.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. So at what stage then does this political will start winning in our country?
After Mogae left,
yes,
we had another administration, I guess.
Yes.
And then the trial, Yaha Re Nchindo, started after Mogae left.
Yes.
That is where we started to see the political will waning.
Yes.
Because there was some reluctance for me whether this case should proceed and what have you. And again, if you go to that case, I don't know if it is the High Court or the Court of Appeal. The regional magistrate had directed that the land, because it was determined that the land was obtained fraudulently.
Yes.
There was no doubt about it. And then the regional magistrate had ordered the restoration of that land to the state. So now it goes on appeal, and those that remained were acquitted, and then the appellate court directs it says, okay, the trial magistrate misdirected himself by directing or ordering that the land be restored to the state. In fact, what should happen is that, according to the Court of Appeal, what should happen is that the restoration of land to the state must be done through a different process, and therefore the state, notwithstanding the fact that there was an acquittal, still had the liberty to engage the process of restoring the land to the state. So there was no political will. And it died a natural death.
Just there.
Just there. Because where there was political will, this particular aspect would have been followed, I mean, to the letter.
Yes.
I get.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone was conniving and paving way to have me become president. Why would I? So that's where we see things happening. And there was a followed. I know some of the issues that you dealt with after this was one infamous case called that involved a company called Silver Shadows.
No. I wasn't involved in that one.
Is it Don Mackenzie?
It is Don Mackenzie. Actually,
I thought you started that investigation and left while it was at infancy.
No.
It began after you left?
It began after I left. Actually, I didn't even work with John Mackenzie, no. But what happened is that when I went back, when I was called back,
yes,
I knew. Right, it's one of the files that I inherited. It was there.
You mean recently?
Yeah, I mean recently, the last lap of my colleague.
Oh.
So I found it there, and of course, I became aware that there were some problems between my successor and the DIS then.
Yes.
And then which brings in another story in my case with the current DIS.
Yes.
So because of those problems that Maseret was encountering with the DIS, they decided they were going to acquire a software where they would encrypt their communications. Can I get my words?
Yes.
Where they would encrypt their communications.
Pegasus, yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
I get.
Yes.
Because there was that suspicion, the other guys were infiltrating.
Yes.
And they had the capacity now to, yeah? So they wanted to counter that.
Yes.
And indeed, they secured a company to come up with that software. I was not there.
No, I remember. That was the time I was actually in the newsroom, in the thick of things.
That was 2015.
Yes, yes.
I was not there.
Yes.
Right, so they succeeded in acquiring that software.
Yeah.
But then what actually happened is that, I mean, all the processes, due processes were followed, I mean, to acquire this software within the context of security consideration.
Yes.
So they they decided it was going to be a selective tender, and they shot about 5 companies. So there is this company which eventually was picked up, and then was awarded the contract. Crypto. Even in the judgment, it's been quoted.
Yes.
Crypto. So when they shortlisted the companies, this company that eventually was successful, they used Seleka Springs to pick up the tender document on their behalf.
𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗱. Yes.
On their behalf.
Yeah.
The twins.
Yeah.
On their behalf. So then there's everything else was processed between this company and the DCEC. So 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗱 was only involved where to pick up the tender document.
This doesn't sound like it's going to end well.
So whatever arrangements between 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗱 and crypto, it's got nothing to do with
the process.
Is the process here. Ba dumelang ntse ba di dumelang gore mona ta ke go rome gongwe go tse dilo tse o to nthuse go was it on a commission, was it on what? The DCEC that knows nothing about it.
Yes.
So interestingly, this procurement file, it is one of the files that I was alleged to have hidden in my office, which led to the barricading of the office.
Yes.
Together with that one,
Yes.
These two files, Morupisi.
Yes.
And what actually happened is that before I left for Rwanda, it is called in the judgment.
Yes.
Before I left for Rwanda, the DIS writes me to say that, and this was on the 4th, I think it was on the 4th of April. They write me to say, we are inquiring if you have any contract. The DCEC has any contract with Seleka Springs, or the DC, or any contract with any company that has some kind of relationship with Seleka Springs. Then because I'm new, I'm still trying to find my feet on most of the things. Then I called the legal department. Hey, do we have any contract with Seleka Springs? No, we don't. Corporate services, are you aware of any contract that we have with Seleka Springs? Or any company that is, has some connection with Seleka Springs? And then the corporate services say, yes, we don't have a contract with Seleka Springs. But when we advertise for the acquisition of this software, there was this company that collected the ITT on Seleka Springs collected the ITT on behalf of this particular company. Okay, bring the file. So they bring the file. I looked at everything, and the amount paid, the process followed, and what have you. And then I write back to the DIS. Yeah, we don't have any contract with Seleka Springs. What we have is this particular company. When we advertised for the acquisition of the software, this company collected the tender documents on behalf of Seleka Springs. Then I attach copy of the tender register, and then give them all that information, even the contract. Yeah, this particular company and the DCEC, and even the payment, right? So much was paid. Then I leave for Rwanda. I like to go Rwanda. They write back again to say that no, you have not provided us with all the information that we needed. But only to find that what they were looking for was the source code, that encryption, which I could not provide for very good reason.
That's interesting. Yes.
But then,
so that they can enter your back end.
Precisely. What I had wanted to protect, then I'll be exposing the organization. And then, but I'm aware somebody is acting, they take that information, they give it to Nenya. I got this file, I got a registry. They take this information, give it to the DIS. But then, surprisingly enough, despite the fact that whoever was acting when I'm aware had access to this file, now they are putting up a story to say that it is one of the files that I'm hiding in my office. The whole thing does not make sense. That is why I was saying that Ronawi knew, or all that was used as a ploy, to access the investigations that we're pursuing.
When they came to barricade your office.
When they came to barricade my office. Gary.
Damn, this is quite crazy, you know. So interestingly enough, you speak about that. I think when 𝗖𝘀𝗲𝗄𝗁 was at the helm of the DIS, you had already left. You were in the private sector, and Seleka Springs actually featured quite a lot in those investigations. The Don Mackenzie docket, which I know that you are aware of. How did you know Don Mackenzie? Because he ended up exiling himself a couple of days after Harry Tembo, who was supposed to come in and give evidence at the DCEC, was found killed, cold-blooded in 𝗕𝗃𝗏𝗏 and all the likes.
I've never met John Mackenzie.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
Not even once.
Okay. So what is your view of where we are going now as a country in terms of fighting corruption?
You see, what is interesting is that you take the manifesto of all the parties that participate in the election process.
Yes.
They have a paragraph on corruption to say that we are going to fight corruption. And even when you look at the manifesto at the BDP, 2019, that was there.
Yes.
And in fact, that is what persuaded me to take up the appointment.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Because they were talking about two things. The rule of law. We are going to maintain the rule of law. We are going to fight corruption. Right?
Yeah.
So when you maintain the rule of law, you are actually fighting corruption. Because what you are saying, the decisions, every decision that is taken must conform to the standard that you have put in place. By one.
Yes.
And then I said, wow. Now, I think me and the administration were in sync.
Yes.
I get.
Yes.
Yeah, no, go. Politicians must know when they say we are committing to combating corruption, they are saying to us, to the nation, we are going to run a clean administration to promote good governance.
Yes.
Like I said earlier on, corruption undermines good governance. Good governance provides development.
Yes.
And therefore, corruption, because it undermines good governance, it compromises development. So you cannot get sustainable development where corruption is rampant. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yes.
You'd always get a situation
Yes. Yeah.
And kana ikile kanela an example na kile ka to distinguish between the so-called big fish and small fish. Right?
Yes.
Well, just imagine a young man pays a bribe to a licensing officer to give him a driver's license. Right? He's not competent. His competency has not been tested. And then he goes onto the road under this false belief that I'm a driver.
Yes.
He comes to an intersection in Tsonalia Orapa House. There's some kind of commotion, and then an accident occurs. 5-6 vehicles catch fire. Right? You have Kaha, you have that building, BHC. Kaha, you have Orapa house, and then of course you have some other properties there. And this fire goes out of control. So would you still regard that 50 pula bribe as insignificant? Baban. So here I'm trying to sensitize you to the consequences of corruption. Yeah. Too ghastly to contemplate when it comes to that situation. Or alternatively, you have a policeman receiving a bribe, and he's receiving bribe from a tourist. Then that tourist goes to Namibia. They asked, oh, how was your visit in Botswana? How was your stay in Botswana? And then he said, that country is corrupt. Corrupt, why? Because he was made to pay a bribe. Yes. How about that reputational risk that the country is suffering just because of that behavior?
Where a prison guard was bribed to release a prisoner. And on their way escaping, that prisoner comes at a filling station. They need a vehicle. They find this lady, she was topping up at the filling station. They hijack her, grab her, then kill her and dump her somewhere in the bush. When that man knocks off from work in the evening, he finds police at his home and the family that, guys who just escaped from prison, found your wife, and that was the end of it. So take him from where you are saying.
Yes. Correct. Now, my approach, correct. Corruption must be addressed from all fronts. You must not try to categorize it, because corruption is corruption, whether it involves that whole amount. Especially when you look at the consequences, the effects of it. It is a deadly phenomenon. Yes. Of course, you have petty corruption, and then you have grand corruption. They may not be at the same level in terms of sophistication. Because the other fellow is not directly involved. He's using what? The inner circle, to achieve his objective, or to perpetuate his corrupt practices. Whereas the other fellow is an immigration officer, is directly involved, he gets this. So you cannot compare the two in terms of sophistication. But when it comes to the whole issue of the consequences, they are both deadly. Because if you take petty corruption, the cumulative effect of petty corruption has the same effect as grand corruption. Masaradin can make a whale. I get. So, the government commit to addressing issues of corruption. They must commit, and commitment to addressing issues of corruption is to instill a value system. And yes, instill a value system. And then you aspire for integrity. And integrity alone kills corruption almost instantaneously. You refuse to receive a bribe, corruption is dead. I get it. But you receive a bribe, you're actually encouraging it.
More coming.
More coming. And what you should also remember, in corruption, once you receive it once, you receive a bribe once, then you are held at ransom by those people who are paying a bribe. Now they'll be competing to pay a bribe to you. I get will be an aura 50 pula. You become the highest bidder. The highest bidder gets it. And the only time that you disappoint one, then that is when they are going to report you. That is why I was saying that detection, crime, can both coincidental or accidental. It is accidental that or coincidental that you refused to budge on this one. And then the other one followed. He's aggrieved, so he's bound to go and report. They report, and then that is how you detect it.
You detect it, yes.
Hey.
Yes.
Just like in other crimes.
Yeah.
Now, a motorist.
Yeah.
Get more traffic cop. Get ha netan. Get ha stop on hand. I had like robots. Two things might have happened. Yes, he has committed that offense. Or he's run away from the murder that has just taken place, or robbery that has taken place. That is what motivated him to go through the red light. So you detect that crime through what? By arresting these people for this person for a traffic offense. And I was fortunate. 1980, that is when I was sent for my detective training in the UK. All right?
Yeah.
And it was during the time when there was this guy, the West Yorkshire Ripper, killing ladies and what have you. So we were in an area where he was operating. That is where we were. And we happened to be attached to the scene, to the incident room where they were coordinating this investigation. They were trying all sorts of things. Tested the voices, search for fingerprints, everything, all the biometrics that they could lay their hands on.
Yeah.
They tried that, but they could not arrest this guy. And you know how he was arrested? Very simple. By a provisional sergeant who was promoted a week ago. He goes to an assembling point there, the prostitute. Normal patrol,
yeah.
Normal patrol.
Yeah.
And then he sees this car parked there, picks up the number plates, send them to the control room. Hey, check for me this particular vehicle. And then when the information came back, the things did not tally. The number plate was different. It showed a different car. And now they were arresting him. They arrested him for driving a vehicle with a false registration number plate.
Okay.
And then what do they find in the car? The instruments that this guy used to kill the 17 ladies and what have you.
Oh.
And this is how this case was detected.
Jeez. Yes.
So, in the detective work, you must always be aware of these things. Yeah.
So I think on the last stage, Katlholo, I have a couple of names and whatnot that I want to just throw on the table and hear what the first things that go into your head when you hear about them, when you think about them, and all the likes. The first one that I'll start with is CarterMorupisi ongoing case, one of the first 𝗕𝗂𝗄𝗄 successful cases. It's a corruption in the longest of time involving a very high profile person. After years where government had been criticized, facing a lot of criticism that Lona big fishes never get any court appearance or even a ruling, a sentence to appear. It has happened. It is what now. What is your opinion, or what were you thinking when all of this was happening?
Well, you mean in terms of the successful prosecution and conviction?
Yes, I think it goes both ways. I think you were the administration of the DPP that submitted this case before the courts. right? Or was it?
Yeah, I found it, when I rejoined.
Yes.
The case was already before the court.
It was already
so
before the court.
So I can't take any credit.
Yes. And
but speaking generally,
yes,
that would come as a demonstration.
Yeah.
To say that the country does not tolerate corruption. That is what would put the country in a very good pedestal. Yeah, me batwale are doing something about corruption. Irrespective of who is involved. Had there been some interferences in terms of proceeding with the case, whether people believe he was guilty or he was not guilty, then that, like in the previous cases where I mentioned, then people will start to doubt the
process, the integrity of the process.
The integrity of the process. Because you see, the integrity of the nation starts with the integrity of the individual officer.
Yes.
Like this guy said, she was well like a policeman who received a bribe.
Yes.
So he receives a bribe, and then the next thing, somebody goes out. He's asked about his experience of the country. Now it is the country which is corrupt, not that particular one.
Yes.
And again, going back to the whole issue of good governance, it is actually anchored on the individual personal values of a civil servant. The universal. You know, honesty, accountability, transparency, so that when an officer lives up to these values, they spiral through the institution itself. Now, this behavior, individual behavior, becomes the behavior of the institution.
Yes.
And now you have several of these institutions. You have police, you have immigration, you have DPSM, you have DPP, you have behaving in this manner, right? That behavior, because now it has spiraled through the behavior of the institution, now it has a knock-on effect on national integrity system.
An interesting component actually in this issue, after his conviction, Morupisi accused the Court of Appeal of trying to politicize its rulings during sentencing and all the likes. What do you think, maybe with your knowledge and experience, ought to have happened? Because the judge, 𝗕𝗂𝗍𝗂, has since refused to recuse herself and says that she was, Netani was well in hormone. 𝗕𝗂𝗍𝗂 actually has refused to recuse herself. Habaro onale conflict because of what had happened in the chambers. But also there is in the judgment where Walia is accused of having politicized a judgment. What is your view of these two?
You see, you cannot blame Morupisi for raising these issues.
Yeah.
Because all those are within his constitutional right.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You can't blame him. When I'm accused of any offense, I'm entitled to come up with my own defense. And I can raise anything as a defense. So it is up to the state, to prove, no, your defense is defenseless. So, you get my point?
Yes.
So you cannot blame him for that. That is his entitlement. Again, the way I look at it, there are a lot of things that were raised in that particular case.
Yes.
First of all, in a law, they should also recuse themselves because of some allegations that they relate.
Yeah, that they are related to certain
now
individuals.
It goes to some allegations that they relate. Now, those were issues we defend the Kauka, the Kauka defend. When we defend the Kasuma the same.
Yes, yes. Yes.
So let the judiciary play its role. Let the judiciary decide on these things. Let us come with a precedence. Yahoring, nya, me ra so no sibua honga sibua because of ABCD, because the judicial decisions are very, very dynamic.
Yes, yes, yes.
So the one judge may find substance in what he say. The other judge may say, no, there is no substance. All this depends on their experience and what have you. Because somebody will say, no. But in terms of judgment, they are called Supreme Court of Indonesia and what have you. This is what happened and this is how it was held.
Yes.
So really, I don't think we should be worried about that. I think we should let the due process run as it should. Yeah.
Your run-ins with the media over the years while you're doing your work, I know there was some fight that you once had with Sunday Standard over some case that they were dealing with and a story that they wrote. And at the time, I recall they were represented by Dick Bayford. The two, I'd just like to understand what your experience has been in relating with the two, especially with Attorney Dick Bayford, who has been is a well-respected human rights lawyer, and I know that you have had your fair share of sparing in between the clients, your cases.
Yes, he's one lawyer that I respect. Not to say that I don't respect other lawyers. I do respect.
Even if you don't.
But he's one lawyer that I respect because my interaction with him started when he was a state counsel. And I really enjoyed his advocacy. That is where we interacted. We might have interacted in one of the cases I was doing. And then, of course, he left, he joined the private sector. And then the case that you are referring to, what actually happened is that the DCEC staff had taken me to court. They were complaining I had manipulated the scheme of service, what have you. I mean, all the stories that you can. And I said, but you see, when you look at the whole process, I don't own the scheme of service. The scheme of service is the property of the DPSL. If they say you do this, I do, because I don't own it.
Yes.
That is why you come up with a scheme of service and then you send it to the DPSM, and then they approve it in the way that they think it is necessary or deemed to be approved. So I was taken to court. But then, in some of the affidavits that the officers filed, I guess they were accusing me of corruption.
Yes.
Without regard for this particular aspect, I don't own the scheme of service. And the decision that I implemented on behalf of the DPSM.
Yes.
So it was not my decision. So there was this journalist who I think was overzealous or something like that. He wrote where I was corrupt, I did that and that and that and that. And then I took up the matter to redeem myself. So Red Bayford was represented the Sunday Standard. I was represented by Rekhalema. So we went to court in Frankstown and we sat around the table to say, okay, let us proceed and see who
would emerge victorious.
Who would emerge victorious. And my view was very clear that I didn't need any money from Sunday Standard, but I wanted justice. I wanted my name to be redeemed.
Yes. Because
I wasn't I wasn't the person that was portrayed by the newspaper. So the two lawyers sat together. They came back to me and Lere Mukoni, and we agreed the matter is settled outside court, and we agreed the terms. Yes,
yes.
So, surprisingly enough, when I was recalled, 2020, another overzealous journalist picks up this story and he presents it in the same manner that it was presented before.
Ooh, as if it's new.
As if it is new. And the first person I called was Bayford. I guess you know when we have settled this. Would you advise your clients or Canada in contempt of court?
Again. They forgot.
They had forgotten what we had agreed. And then, of course, he prevailed upon them. So they retracted the story. They made good everything.
It is an honorable thing. I only say that as media also, we have to hold ourselves accountable.
Yeah.
We appreciate mistakes do happen in every profession, but sometimes there are blatant cases where you see that this is just recklessness. And people don't really care about other people's reputation, other people's lives as they go along. But you know, I'm saying it's an honorable thing because if you realize that you have been misled, or you have to be able to.
And moreover, that this second story comes after these officers lost the case at the Court of Appeal. But Graura, I didn't have any hard feelings and what have you. I said, so this is what we agreed. I think we can make good at that.
Yes.
So if I'd wanted to make money out of it, really, I think I would have.
No, which is a good thing. So speaking of which, I would like you maybe to just give me your view and your perspective of the media landscape. And I would like you to give me a tone or a precursor, because here's what we see. And you mentioned it earlier on. I didn't want to interrupt your poetry. You were mentioning that an investigator doesn't just get information and then run to the courts. It's just an allegation. It's just a hunch. It's just a gut feeling. You have been given. You have been given paperwork. Generally, it's not yet a case. There is no charge. So we have a situation where, I'll say it in a sarcastic manner. Your people in the DCEC, DIS and whatnot have a tendency of leaking to our journalists uncooked information that is not ready. So I digress, but I'm trying to say that half of the time you find situations where people are just leaked on information and they just run with it without corroborating, cross-checking, and really just picking up the phone and calling Mr. Katlholo, are you really investigating this person? And then it just goes. What do you have to say to that?
Let me say in the first place that whoever leaks information from an institution, they're unethical. Well, there are certain behaviors that governs them. But of course, in the situation DCEC, it is not necessarily the officers within the DCEC that leaks information. An investigator would go to interview Jack, Samson, and what have you. They get excited about that interview. They start to talk about it, right? Sometimes they even know the person that is involved. Sometimes this is how information leaks, and you pick it up. And then you call a young officer who is excited, and then you call the director, hey, how about this. And I think where we are, where we are not in sync, the media and the DCEC, or the investigation ground, especially. When you want a scoop,
Of course, yes.
You want a scoop.
Yes.
And then that scoop might not have reached that standard. Second is probably
scare the pigeons.
Yeah, where I can. Yes, you get my point. I think that is where we are at variance. But otherwise, we are on the same page, right? We would want to share the story to say that yes, we are investigating this matter, but we cannot reveal the details. More nights enough. When you want now the story to say, yeah, but Hatumutua had said 20,000 and not have it. Now I've not yet reached that stage. I will guess that was who 20,000. Or even still, I'm still pursuing that line. Yeah, Nathan. But now you want a scoop. I think that is where the problem is. So there could be Nathan. I remember during my first tour at DCEC, we used to have press briefings, right? Which worked very well because then we didn't have this pressure on Nathan. I think on a monthly basis,
yes,
we'd call the press conference and then we say, we have received so many reports. So many reports have been taken to court. These are the cases now that have been taken to court. These are the cases that we are about to take to court. And that was running very, very smoothly. And then, even if you are to make a follow-up on that case that I've mentioned, then because now I'm in a position to say, to give you details if I could. No, that matter now is referred to DPP. I think we have recommended prosecution. Things like that. So, I think that is where we have a problem.
No, I do get you. I guess basically also you are saying that we should be in a position to do our own investigations.
Yes.
To try and establish the proper facts. To try and minimize harm on those that we are writing about as journalists, basically, as a standard rule of ethics generally on our side.
I'll also give you another example.
Yes.
There was one MP who alleged massive corruption. The electrification of 110 villages, there was this project.
Yes.
So he went to court, made this allegation, and unfortunately, this project was co-funded by the Botswana government and I think the Swedish or something, but some donor countries, right? So the donor countries wanted to pull out after that statement in Parliament, because they were saying, if corruption was involved, then
we don't want to be a party.
We don't want to be a party.
Now that jeopardizes.
That jeopardizes a project for the country to benefit 110 villages electrification. So then I approached Mogae, then the president. Mr. President, we are going to investigate this matter. But I'll start from the premise, I'll call a press conference to assure the public that we are going to look into this matter. Once we are done, whether we find the evidence or we don't find the evidence, I'm going to call a press conference now to give our position. And I did exactly that, right? Called the press conference. You guys were firing with questions and what have you, and I answered the questions. Those that I could not answer, I would say, yeah, that's one error. I would not give an answer because in as far as I'm concerned with my investigation is sub judice. But then we parted. 3 months later, after we had finalized the investigation and made a report submitted to Minister of Finance, and the donors were furnished with the report, right? That made their comments. Okay, now we accept we accept the report as is. So I called a press conference. These are our findings. 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm not saying that you may not have any other evidence to the contrary. So if you do, Yeah, please.
Bring it forward. Yeah.
Please bring it forward. Then we would continue there.
Yeah.
But otherwise, let's see.
And
then the next thing, 110 villages were electrified. So I can go on and on these examples and what have you. It is important. The press is important to the DCEC. It is a source of information also, because you might sometimes pick up something that has not reached the DCEC.
Yes. So,
but what you should be mindful, like I said earlier, it is not that everything that somebody says it is corruption, it is actually corruption.
Yes.
For the very reasons that I've just given you.
Yes. Yes.
It might be just a wrong decision. Yes, it is wrong. But is it corrupt because it is wrong? No. It must be corrupt because the whole thing was motivated by corrupt practices or personal gain. Favoritism.
Yes.
But the way you are given information and you acted in good faith, and
then you find
it happened that is wrong. But you don't know just on the surface, this is a wrong decision or a corrupt decision. So you must dig in.
That's quite interesting. So before we wrap it up, because we have a lot that we can really speak about, especially when next time we go into specific issues, let's say how things are unfolding. I would like you to weigh in your opinions on the new administration, and especially maybe Duma Boko, who assumed that also as an attorney you've had a chance maybe to exchange one or two.
Well, I'm a Democrat. I believe in democracy because democracy is part of fighting corruption.
Yes.
That is the link. So I would want to see a situation where that commitment, what was made through the manifesto, is actually put into action through National Development Plan to combat corruption. It must not, the fight against corruption is not just a rhetorical statement. Should not just be a rhetorical statement. It must a statement that is followed by action, concrete action.
Yes.
Yes. Because you know what promote a leader, a politician.
Yeah.
It is not how clever they are. It is how credible they are. So credibility defines the behavior of a leader.
No, I'm thinking about the past. That's why I'm laughing.
Yeah?
Yes. No. I guess that's unless there's anything else that you wanted to share with me that I may have left out before we can wrap it up. We'll be speaking out for an hour now. Edward, so Katlholo. Yes.
Even those cross-border crimes.
Yes.
You remember we had some issues, 𝗕𝗂𝗄𝐶𝑑𝑢𝑑u.
Yes.
I was sent there. There was a joint netani to investigate, and part of the report that we produced during that investigation was used at The Hague as part of the evidence and all that. This, and you know the results.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. That's quite.
And my last shot, anything that is wrong, even if it helps you. It doesn't matter, yes, it is helping you. It is wrong. And it is wrong even if people believe, they believe in it. If it is wrong, it's wrong.
Yes.
So anything that is right, it is right. Even people do not want to accept it, or it is right.
Yes.
So my advice to politicians, let us do the right thing. Do the right thing, make sure that social justice, we protect it.
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah.
You protect it. Avoid evil activities.
Yes.
Eh? Hey, we should focus.
So I'm curious, where do you holiday?
Nah.
Hey, where do you go for holiday if you say proper holiday?
Well, during my career in the public service, I traveled a lot. So I given up on that.
You can't retire from traveling. Actually, when you retire, that's when you should travel. Because you are searching for what you've lost in the days of your youth. And all the lives.
I don't like traveling.
Your favorite team, sports team?
Gaborone United.
GU, locally, internationally?
International.
You look like an Arsenal fan.
Liverpool.
Okay.
You cannot walk alone.
Hey, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm quite glad and excited to have, for us to have found time to catch up. I believe that we have done also service to the nation. Releases a Punchline podcast. As I had mentioned earlier, you are all aware of Tymon Katlholo, who is a very seasoned law enforcement official. When we talk about fighting corruption, those who know him, actually, I can relate him to the gladiator of crime busting. So I'll meet you here in a few weeks' time again, where we'll be having other interesting topics and different guests to talk about and participate in the social development of our society. My name is Lawrence Seretse. This is the Punchline podcast. Have a good day, Tymon Katlholo.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Right.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah.